All right, sixth graders, welcome to today's lesson. What we're looking at today is powers and roots for this. And you guys have already seen powers before, so that part will be a little bit of a review. Remember, you have your base and your exponent again. This is a power, so remember that just means 7 times 7. What we're looking at today is a little bit different. It's kind of the opposite operation. So the opposite of adding is subtracting, the opposite of multiplying is dividing. The opposite of a power here is a square root, or it's also known as a radical sign. And if you look at your calculator, that's what the button looks like. So maybe find it on your calculator. You can use that today to kind of help you find square roots also. There are things called a perfect square. A perfect square, and that is when it comes out to a whole number. So for example, when you are taking the square root of, let's say, 16, we are thinking what times what would equal 16, and it has to be the same number. So 4 times 4 equals 16, so the square root of 16 is 4. Okay, let's look at another perfect square. Go ahead and figure out what the perfect square is, or this one is a perfect square. What is the square root of 64? So again, you want to think of what times what, that's the same number, would equal 64. You're right if you said the square root of 64 is 8 then. Okay. Let's try a few more perfect squares, and this is kind of like example 1, also kind of leading into example 2. These are both perfect squares. Go ahead, find the square root of 144, and also find the square root of 9 for both of those. You were right if you got for the perfect or the square root of 144 is 12, and the square root of 9 is 3. So again, these are perfect squares because they come out to a whole number. You don't always get perfect squares though, and this is where you are going to estimate, and we are not going to use our calculator for this. So for example, let's take the square root of, let's say, 45. 45 is not a perfect square, so we want to think of the perfect squares on either side of this. Okay, we want to think of the perfect squares on either side of this. So I know 49 is a perfect square because it comes to 7, and 36 is on the other side. Now notice 6 and 7, they always have to be right next to each other. They have to be consecutive numbers. They can't be 6 and 8. Otherwise, we missed a perfect square in between. Now I want to look at, this is either, is this closer to 36 or is this closer to 49? Okay, well, this is only 4 away, and this is 9 away. So we would say 45, it's about 7, because it's closer to that. It's not a perfect square, but it's closer to that. If you want to estimate it with a decimal, I would take about, 6.8, about 6.7, or you can round it to the nearest whole number. All right, let's try to find another one. For example, let's find the square root of 84. First job, like above, find the perfect squares on either side. Okay, so think about what the perfect squares are on either side of the number. 81, and I know this has to be 10, so 10 times 10 for that, so I know it's 81 and 100. Now I can go ahead and estimate, see what one it's closer to. It's a lot closer to this one, so I can say it's about 9. But again, if you want to round it to decimal, I would take about 9.1 or about 9.2 for this. And again, no calculators for this. So you can go ahead, try some from the homework problem, like example 2. The last one we're going to look at is kind of like example 3. They were searching for a lost hiker. A helicopter pilot covers a square area. So again, I'm going to draw a picture, a square area of 150 miles squared. What is the approximate length of each side? So we know a square has 4 sides the same length. And we know to get 150, they did length times width for that. Okay, and they have to be the same. So again, we're going to round our answer to the nearest mile. So what I can do is find the square root of 150. So again, my first job is to find the perfect squares on either side. Go ahead and do that to figure that out. I have 144 and 169. So again, I want to see which one is it closer to. Is 150 closer to 144 or is it closer to 169? Well, it's closer to 144. So they're going to have to, each side is about 12 miles. Not 12 miles squared because it's the side of the square. It's not the area for that. So you can go ahead, try some word problems either like number 9, 22, and 23, and check them in the back of the book. We'll be working on our homework tomorrow in class, but come with questions, try the examples, try some homework problems also. And I'll see you